Is one of the biggest weather-related hazards that we actually face.
6 News is on your side with expert advice on how to keep yourself and your family safe. Here's meteorologist Jade Steffens. Jade.
Yes, Jacqueline. Well, lightning bolts are about the width of your thumb, but they pack temperatures 5 times hotter than the surface of the sun. So lightning has killed 6 people so far in the U.S. this year, one of them being a Nebraska man struck June 21st while riding a horse checking on cattle. So when storms are approaching the area and you start to hear thunder, that is when you want to head inside. Lightning kills an average of 30 people in the U.S. a year and can strike miles away from where the rain is falling. As a general rule of thumb, wait at least 30 minutes after the most recent rumble of thunder you hear. And taking a look at the states as far as statistics goes, Florida definitely takes the lead on this, accounting to about 53 total in the last 10 years. Texas, Alabama, North Carolina, Arizona, all in the double digits as well. Nebraska has had 1 death that occurred this year, Iowa totaling about 2 since 2013. As far as activities that people are doing while they are struck by lightning, fishing ranks as number 1, followed by going to the beach, boating, camping, and farming. Men also account for 80% of those lightning strikes compared to women. The stats listed of the above outdoor activities, but you can't always get indoors in time. Electricity sometimes tries to find the path of the least resistance, so if you are stranded out in the elements, my advice would be to get away from higher ground and away from other tall objects like trees. And of course, we do have quite a bit of chances for storms ahead for next week, so this is great information to keep in mind as we do have those off and on storm chances.
Yes, Jade.
Safety first.
Yeah, I'll just stay inside.
Right.
Jade,
Problem
thank you.
solved.
Yeah, thank you for all that information.